The plaque went to the foundry on Friday. Whatever names were on the county's list that Tuesday afternoon would sit in bronze for the next 100 years. Mine was third from the bottom. My brother had a motion in his hand to strike it. He had the votes, too. 4 out of 7, and he'd counted them twice. I was at the back of that chamber in a duty uniform, gravel dust still on the cuffs. I hadn't said one word all day. I wasn't going to say one either. That sounds like surrender. It wasn't. To make sense of it, you'd have to go back 22 years. Back to a Thursday morning in March. Back to a man who never told a soul what he did that day. He'd been in the ground 4 years by then. I'm Rosalyn Teague, 45 years old. 25 years in the Army, all told. I put bridges across water. Panels, pins, boats, cable. Wet boots 9 months out of 12. I bolt panels together, I tell people. Anybody can bolt panels. That's true enough. It's just not the size of the thing. My family is from Kessler County, Ohio, an hour and a half southeast of Columbus. Corn on one side of the road, a gravel pit on the other. The courthouse in Danby turned 100 years old that spring. Somebody on the historical committee had the idea of a veteran's plaque bronze, bolted by the north door. Every name the county could account for. 1,100 and some. They wanted a color guard for the unveiling. The request came down to my company. My commander looked at the county line on the paperwork, then at me. Isn't this yours? It's mine. You want somebody else on it? No. Then it's yours. I drove up from Kentucky on a Sunday with my boy in the truck. My soldiers came Monday in a van. Wyatt had one question the whole 5 hours. Is Uncle Merle going to be there? He's there every day of his life. That's not what I asked. We spent that first day in the courthouse basement staging. Flag stands, white gloves, the whole business. The basement smelled like wet stone and old paper, and there was a wall of shelving down there with numbers painted on the ends. Specialist Odom put her hand on one of the shelf ends. What's in these? Deeds. Land, I think. All the way back. All the way back, I said. Who gets to look at them? Anybody, I guess. It's a courthouse. Nobody guards them. There's a counter and a lady behind it. That's it. That's it. Then we went and found the flag stands, and I didn't think about that wall again for a day and a half. My brother Merle came down the stairs at 4 o'clock to look at us. Merle is 50. He sits on the county board second term, and he is good at it. He remembers names. He shakes a hand with both of his. He stopped on the bottom step with his coat over his arm. You're going to be here Tuesday. That's the plan. In that. In this. Huh. He went back up the stairs. That was the entire visit. I should tell you the shape of it now, or nothing after this will make sense. For 22 years, my brother has been telling this county that I never served. Not that I was bad at it, not that I left early, that the whole thing was invented, start to finish. He's careful about it. He never says a word against the uniform I'm wearing today. He says it about the first 4 years, the ones with the gap after them. And he says the county has nothing on paper for a single one of them. For a long time, that was true. The county did have nothing. That's the part it took me 22 years to understand. Here's the only sentence I'll spend on the history. I did 4 years, came home for 1, and went back in the spring after that. And I've been in ever since. 1 year. That's the hole he built the whole thing inside of. My father was Emmett Teague. He ran the scales at the gravel pit for 31 years, and he was not a talker. He died on a January morning in a hospital hallway waiting on a bed. 4 years ago this winter. After the funeral, my mother handed me 2 things. A pocket knife and his Bible. The Bible had a rubber band around it on there so long, the leather had a groove worn where it sat. I took the band off on the tailgate of my truck in the church lot. There was a slip of paper folded in the back. Grocery pad paper, my father's pencil pressed hard, the way he wrote everything. 2 things on it. 41. And under that, 618. I sat with it a while. He marked verses that way sometimes, chapter and verse when the preacher said a thing he wanted to keep. So I folded it back where it was and put the band around the book. Then I gave the Bible to my son. He was 3 years old, and he liked the ribbon in it. That slip of paper sat on a boy's nightstand 4 years running. Not one person in this family knew what it was, me included. 22 years ago, I came home in March with a duffel bag and a manila envelope. I was 23. I'd been gone 4 years, and I hadn't been back once in the last 2 of them. My mother made a roast. Merle came over with his wife Doreen and their boys. Merle was 28 then. He'd been running the pit office since our father's back gave out. He asked me exactly one question at that table. You get anything out of it? Out of what? 4 years. You get anything out of it? I got out of it what anybody gets. He laughed. Not mean. He laughed like a man who'd already decided you weren't serious. You put on weight. Some. They feed you all right then. They fed me. Well, he said, you're home. The envelope stayed in my duffel bag. Nobody asked to look in it, so I never opened it in that house. That fall, I took a job at the scale house at the pit, weighing gravel trucks. $11 an hour and a space heater under the counter. I did it for 1 year, waiting on a slot to come open. Then, in the spring, I went back in. And that 1 year at the scale house is the whole trick. Because Merle didn't invent something out of thin air. He took a true thing and stretched it over the top of 4 other years like a tarp. Roz was at the scale house with us, he'd say. That other business came later. Later than what? Later than she says. It took him a while to get the sentence smooth. I'd hear it about twice a year, at funerals mostly. By the time I made 10 years in that sentence, had stopped having any question in it at all. Thanksgiving, the year I turned 33. The table was full, so I had a plate on my knees at the end of it. Somebody's new husband asked me where I was stationed. She wasn't over there, Merle said from the other end. She was at the pit with Dad. Ask anybody. That's not what she told me. Well, she said Germany. People say a lot at a table, Merle said. Pass that. Is that right, Rosalyn? Nobody at that table looked up. My ears went hot. My stomach dropped like a step that isn't there. I said nothing. I passed the rolls. Later, my mother caught me on the back steps with the trash. Don't make a thing out of it, Rosalyn. I didn't make anything. He doesn't mean it the way it sounds. How does it sound? Like a woman making trouble on a holiday. I haven't said one word all night. That's how I'd like to keep it. She took the bag out of my hand and went inside. That's my mother. Faye Teague, 71 now. There's never been one fight in her house that she put a stop to instead of a lid on. 2 days later, I drove back to Post and I didn't come home again for 3 years. Here's the part I'd rather not say out loud because it's the one that makes me look worst. I let it stand. I told myself it was dignity. I told myself the people who mattered knew. The rest weren't worth an argument at a holiday table. Both of those are things you say when you're tired. The truth is, I was ashamed of that 1 year. 12 months at a scale house when I was 23, and my brother could turn that into a life sentence anytime he wanted, so I stayed gone. I made rank, I bolted panels together in 4 countries, and every year that story got a little more true, in the only place that decides such things. Other people's mouths. Then I had a son. And it stopped being about me. His name is Wyatt. He's 7. He has my father's ears and somebody else's temper. His dad has him every other weekend out of Elizabethtown, and the 2 of us do fine. 2 springs ago, I brought Wyatt up for a week at my mother's. He was 5, and he wanted to see the gravel pit. Sunday dinner. 9 people. Merle carving. Doreen's nephew put a polite question to me about the army. Where'd they send you? Merle answered it before I had my mouth open. Nowhere she'll tell you about. I set my fork down. Then, I did the thing I'd told myself for years I'd never bother doing. I walked out to the truck and brought the envelope back in with me. I'd had the first page laminated at a print shop in Radcliffe. Paper that old splits at the folds. I put it on the table by the gravy boat. "There it is," I said. "Everything you say I didn't do." Merle didn't pick it up. He looked at it the way you look at a coupon somebody hands you at a door. "Roz," he said, "anybody can send off for one of those. That's my discharge. That's a piece of paper you brought from your own house. It has a seal on it." "It has a seal anybody can order." "Merle, I'm not fighting with you at dinner." My mother put my name out once low. "Rosalyn." And that was it. The whole hearing, start to finish. Everybody who hears this puts the same question to me. Why didn't she just show them? I did show them. It didn't matter one bit. A thing you carry in your own hand is an argument. That's all it ever gets to be. I put the envelope back in the truck, and we drove home to Kentucky on Tuesday. Last October, Wyatt came off the school bus in a mood. "Mom, did you go in the army for real?" I got down to where his face was. "Who told you different?" "Cody. He said his dad said." "Said what exactly?" "That you never went. That you just say it." "And what did you say back?" "I said my mom has boots." "That's a good answer, bud." "He said anybody can buy boots." "And what did you say to that?" "Nothing. The bus came." Cody is Merle's grandson. He is 8 years old, and he was only saying what he heard at his own supper table. I've been shot at exactly twice in my life, and neither time did to me what that did. My chest went cold and stayed cold for about a week. That was the night I stopped being able to say I didn't care. The plaque letter came in February. The historical committee had asked the County Veterans Service Office for a list of names. That office pulled from the rolls it keeps, and I've been on those rolls since I was 24. Name service years. Bronze. Bolted to a courthouse wall by the north door for 100 years. That letter stayed on my kitchen table in Kentucky most of an evening. Then I cried in a way I'm not going to describe. Then, 11 days later, my mother called. "Your brother's putting something in front of the board." "Putting what?" "About the plaque. About the list." "Mother." "He says it's not personal, it's about the county's good name," she said. "Rosalyn, don't come up here and make it worse." "Make what worse?" "You know how he gets." "My name's on a list, Mother. It's a wall. It's just a wall. It's a wall with my father on it, too." "Don't say that to him." "I'll say it to whoever's in the room." She hung up about 4 seconds after that, the way she does, without any goodbye in it. Merle's motion was 3 lines long. I have it in a drawer. It moved that the name of Rosalyn Teague be struck from the centennial roll. The grounds were that the county held no documentation of the service claimed, and that the committee had taken a family member's word for it. He wasn't wrong about the second part. The committee had, and he had been to the courthouse himself and asked. That's the part that made him dangerous instead of just mean. He'd stood at a counter in that building and put a plain question to a clerk. "Anything in this county with that name on it?" She looked. The answer came back no. I drove up that Sunday, with Wyatt asleep against the window. 1,100 names rode in the back of my head. Monday morning, I found Wendell Pike on the first floor. His office had a window unit and 2 chairs. Wendell runs the County Veterans Service Office. He is 63, and he wears a cardigan. The first thing he tells anybody is that he never served a day. "Not one day," he said. "Bad knees and worse luck. I just do the paperwork for the ones who did." I told him what was on the agenda for Tuesday. He listened with his hands folded on his stomach, and he didn't interrupt me one time. "You've seen it." "I've seen it. Everybody in this building has." "Then you know how it ends." "I know how a vote goes. That's a different thing." Then he asked a question I wasn't expecting. "Mrs. Teague, when did your daddy pass?" 4 years ago. "I'm sorry to hear it. It's been a while now." "That isn't how it works." "What year did you come home that first time?" I told him. He got up and went to a filing cabinet. He stood there thinking with his hand on the drawer, not opening it. You know how a discharge used to get filed around here. At the state, I guess. Sure. And also right here in this building. He tapped the wall with 2 knuckles. Land books. The only words in my mouth were the 2 he'd just used. Land books. Deed book, they call it. The county recorder's volumes. Same shelf as your granddad's farm transfers. He came back and sat down. These boys came home from the war. The county let them file a discharge right here, in this building. In the land books, for free. No fee, no stamp. Why free? A house burns. A courthouse doesn't. Free. Free then and free now. It's a public book, Mrs. Teague. Anybody who walks in can ask for it. What does a copy run? $1 a page, 2 if you want it certified. And I'd have to say why. You'd have to say nothing at all, he said. That's the whole point of a public book. How far back do they go? Further back than either one of us. And a person can just walk in and ask. That's the whole of it. Nobody signs for it. Nobody signs a thing. I want to be careful about what he did and didn't do for me. Wendell Pike never touched a file of mine. He never opened a drawer. He never said one word about what I'd done or what I hadn't. He told me a custom, that's all. And while he was telling me, something turned over in my head. It turned hard enough that I put a hand on the arm of the chair. 41, 618. Not a chapter and a verse, a volume and a page. Mr. Pike, I said, how are those books numbered? By volume? 40-something by now, I'd guess. Why? I didn't answer him. I couldn't yet, because my father never told anybody anything. But at some point he'd sat down with a pencil and written 2 numbers on a grocery pad. Then he folded it into the one book in that house nobody would ever throw away. The recorder's office is on the 2nd floor, back corner, past a hallway that smells like floor wax. Neva Kimball has been the county recorder for 19 years. She is a small woman with glasses on a chain and absolutely no interest in being hurried. Help you. I'm hoping you can look up a filing. Name, Rosalyn Teague. She typed for a bit. Then she turned the monitor a little away from me, which I noticed. Nothing under that name. Nothing at all. Not a deed, not a mortgage, not a discharge. Your name's not in my index, hun. You're sure of the spelling? Teague. That's it. Then that's my answer. Same one I gave the fellow who stood there in January. I don't talk about my counter, she said. Was he in a suit? Everybody's in a suit in January. There it was. That's the sentence my brother had gotten off that same counter in January from a different clerk. He'd walked out of this building with it in his pocket. The county had nothing on Rosalyn Teague. Mrs. Kimball, I said, would it be under somebody else's name? She stopped typing. Say that again. If a man brought in his daughter's paper, whose name goes in the index? She took the glasses off. The index goes by the party who brought it, she said slowly. The grantor. Always been done that way. It's a devil of a thing for this exact reason. His name was Emmett Teague. She put the glasses back on and typed. Then she sat back and made a small sound in her throat. There's a stack of filings under Emmett Teague. Farm ground, mostly. 19 entries. Can you pull them? And that's where the wall came up. The courthouse was 100 years old that week, and the county had picked that exact spring to redo the basement. Every bound volume older than about 12 years sat on a pallet behind plastic sheeting. You couldn't get a cart down the aisle. I can't get back in there till the crew clears the aisle, she said. That's Thursday, maybe Friday. The board meets tomorrow at 4. Then the board meets tomorrow at 4, she said, not unkindly. Put your request in writing. I'll get to it in the order I get to things. I wrote it out at her counter on the form she handed me. Printed my name, dated it, signed it. She stamped it and put it in a tray with 6 other pieces of paper. 6 ahead of me. 6 ahead of you. That was Monday, 2:30 in the afternoon. I stood in that hallway afterward with my hands on my hips, like a woman who's lost her keys. Wyatt was down in the basement with my soldiers, being handed white gloves that came up past his elbows. The laminated envelope was in my truck, 40 feet away in the console. I didn't bring it in, because I'd run that play once already, at a dinner table, in front of 9 people with the gravy going cold. A paper I carry is a paper I could have made. 22 years had taught me that much. If it was going to count, it had to be a thing somebody else was holding. Monday night, I ate supper at my mother's house. Pork chops, applesauce, the good plates, because Wyatt was there. Nobody mentioned the agenda once. At 8 o'clock, Wyatt was at the end of the table with a word search and a broken pencil. I put a question to my mother that I'd been holding all day. Did Dad ever go to the courthouse about me? She was at the sink with her back to me. About you. About my papers. That first time I came home. Your father never went anywhere except the pit and church. You're sure? Rosalyn, I'd have known. Did he ever ask you about my papers? What papers? My discharge. Honey, your father couldn't work the remote control. That isn't an answer. It's the one I have, honey. All right. Don't sit there like that. Like what? Like your father. I let it go. I sat there, turning a coffee cup, a quarter turn at a time on the tablecloth. And because I was tired, I said the 2 numbers out loud without meaning to. 41. 618. My mother's hand stopped in the dishwater. Wyatt didn't even look up from his word search. That's the paper in Grandpa's book, he said. The kitchen got quiet, in a way I can still hear. Say that again, Bud? The little paper, in the Bible you gave me. He shaded in another word. It says 41 and 618. I looked at it a lot. I went down the hall to the spare room. That Bible was on the nightstand, under a flashlight and a rock. The rubber band. The groove in the leather. And there it was folded twice, right where I'd folded it 4 years before. My hands were not steady. I'll own that. Behind me, my mother had come to the doorway with a dish towel, talking in a voice I hadn't heard since the funeral. There was a Thursday, she said. Mother. That March. He took a morning off and he wouldn't say why. She was looking at the wall over my head. I thought it was the doctor. I was so sure of it. I never asked him again. He never told you. He never told me anything, honey. He just did things and came home. Did he ever say my name to anybody? He said it to me. Every time somebody said it wrong. I stood there holding a grocery pad slip in a bedroom with a nightlight in the socket. And then I put it back. I know. Believe me, I know. But I'd carried my own paper into a room once. I'd watched a man look at it like a coupon. That lesson went in deep enough to be a tattoo. Put it back where Grandpa had it, I told Wyatt, and I handed him the book, and he did. Tuesday came in gray and warm. The kind of early spring where the ground gives under your boot. We were on the courthouse lawn at 9 with the flags. We ran the sequence 4 times. Specialist Odom kept squinting at the north wall where the bronze was going to hang. Finally, she wanted to know which name was mine. 3rd from the bottom, I said. That's a good spot. It was. I didn't tell her the board was voting on it at 4 o'clock. Do we stand for the whole thing? We stand for the whole thing. How long is the whole thing? Longer than you want it to be. At noon, a woman from the historical committee brought us cookies on a paper plate. She called me Mrs. Teague 4 separate times. At 3, my soldiers went back to the motel, and I put on a clean uniform. At 4 o'clock, the County Board of Kessler County, Ohio, came to order. Brown paneling, 48 folding chairs. There were about 90 people in it. It wasn't a courtroom. There was no drama in the furniture. 7 board members behind a long table on a low riser. A wooden rail across the front with a gate in it. A microphone on a stand for anybody who wanted to be heard. Doyle Ambrister was in the chair, 78 years old, hard of hearing, fair as the day is long. My mother sat in the second row in her church coat. Wyatt sat next to her with his backpack between his sneakers. Wendell Pike was in the back row in his cardigan with his hands folded on his stomach. Down front sat Neva Kimball at a card table with a poster board about the basement project. The vault relocation was item 5. She was there to answer for it. I took a spot by the door instead of a chair. Items 1 and 2 were a culvert and a fireworks permit. It took 11 minutes. Item 3, Ambrister said. Centennial roll. Commissioner Teague. My brother stood up and buttoned his jacket. He went to that microphone like a man going to check the mail. He was good. I've never once said he wasn't good. He thanked the historical committee by name. That bronze will outlive every soul in this room. It got a small laugh. Then he brought it down. That bronze is a promise, he said. It says the county checked. He let that sit. I went and checked one name on that list myself. In January at the counter upstairs. I asked a plain question. Was there anything in this county with my sister's name on it? He looked at his paper, which he did not need. There is nothing, he said. Not a page, not a line, not one document in Kessler County with Rosalyn Teague on it. 90 people did not turn around to look at me, which was worse than if they had. I'm not here to run down anybody's uniform, he said. I'm here about 4 years this county cannot account for, and a committee that took a family member at his word. I was that family member, and I'm telling you what no. He sat down. My face was on fire. My hands were cold. Those two things at the same time? Anybody wish to be heard? Ambrister said. I went up the side aisle to that microphone with my hat in one hand. Name for the minutes, Ambrister said. Rosalyn Teague. Go ahead, Mrs. Teague. I said 30 words. I'd ask the board to hold this over until Friday. Any particular reason? None I can give you today. All right. I didn't have a why I could put in a sentence in front of 90 people. Merle leaned into his own microphone without standing up. Till Friday, he said, so she can go have another one printed. Somewhere on the left side of that room, 2 men laughed. I have been cold and wet and scared in my working life. I never once wanted so bad to be anywhere else. Anybody else wished to be heard. 90 people and not one chair moved. Commissioner, you want to speak to your motion again? No, sir. It speaks for itself. Roll call, then. Then we'll take the vote, Ambrister said, and reached for his gavel. That's when a chair scraped in the second row. My son stood up in the second row, with his backpack in his hand. My mother reached for his sleeve and got nothing but air. He came up the center aisle in sneakers that squeaked on the tile. He did not come to me. He went to the wooden rail at the front and stopped because he'd been told his whole life not to go past a rail. He unzipped the backpack on the floor. He took out his grandfather's Bible. He held it against his chest with both arms the way you carry a thing that's heavy for you. Then he took the folded slip out of the back of it and set it flat on the rail. It's my grandpa's, he said. 90 people heard a 7-year-old say 5 words. Wyatt, I said. Ambrister leaned toward the sound with one hand cupped behind his ear. Son, what is that? It's got numbers on it. Nobody in that room moved for what felt like a long time and was probably 4 seconds. Then a chair pushed back at the card table down front. Neva Kimball got up, walked 8 feet, and picked the slip up off the rail. She held it out at arm's length and tipped her chin down to get it under her glasses. She looked at it for a while. 41 is a volume, she said. A volume of what? Ambrister said. Deed Book 41. She was still looking at the slip. It's mine. It's downstairs. My brother's microphone made a small sound as he pulled it toward himself. That's a land book, Neva. It is. Land books have land in them. Land books have whatever the county let people file in them, she said. And I've got a boy's paper here. It has a page number on it. Neva, we're in the middle of a vote. Then you'll be in the middle of it when I get back. She handed the slip back to my son. Then she pushed through the side door and let it swing behind her. That wait was 6 minutes. I know because Ambrister twice floated moving on to item 4 while they waited. Twice, Nobody answered him. The fluorescent light over the riser hummed. Somebody's grandson dropped a set of keys. A man in a feed store cap kept turning around to look at the side door, then turning back, then looking again. Merle kept his hands spread out on the table. I was by the door with my hat in both hands. I couldn't feel my own fingers. Then the side door opened. Neva Kimball came through it sideways because of what she was carrying. It was a bound volume about as long as your forearm. Canvas overboard, the corners gone soft and gray. Both her arms were around it. There was a smear of vault dust across the front of her blouse. Behind her, in the doorway, stood a man from the basement crew still holding a box cutter. Nobody had to be hushed. She set the volume down on the wooden rail. She turned the pages with her thumb, 4 or 5 at a time, and the spine made a dry sound like a boot on frozen grass. Then she laid it flat and put one finger on the page and left it there. I'll say this part plainly. Nothing was sealed, and nothing was let out. The book had been sitting on a public shelf in that building for 22 years. It cost nothing to ask for. You just had to know which shelf. Kessler County, Ohio, Neva said. Deed Book 41, page 618. She has a flat courthouse voice, and she used it. Filed the 20th of March at 9:40 in the morning. Brought in by Emmett R. Teague. My mother made a sound in the second row. Instrument. Certificate of release or discharge from active duty. Name of the veteran, Rosalyn Teague. Entry on active duty and separation from active duty. She gave both dates 4 years apart, slow one and then the other. Character of service, honorable. Rank at separation, specialist. She stopped there and moved her finger down about an inch. There's a line at the bottom in the margin, she said. That's the hand of the woman who had this office before me. It says, no charge veteran. Then she said the last of it. And there's a signature on the entry line. E.R. Teague. She took her finger off the page and stood up straight. Mr. Chairman, that's the county's own book. It's been on my shelf a long while, since before that boy's mother came home the first time. Ambrister leaned forward on his forearms. How long has that volume been in this building? Since the year it got filled up. And who's allowed to look at it? Anybody who walks in the door. It isn't mine, it's the county's. Was it ever sealed up? Or held back? Never was, she said. Not one day of it. Relief did not wash over me. I'll tell it straight. What went through me was something closer to grief, and it went through me sideways. My father had taken a Thursday morning off work. He had put on a shirt with buttons. He had driven 11 miles to a courthouse. He had stood at a counter and handed a stranger his daughter's paper. He had paid nothing and signed a line. Then he drove home and ate his supper. He never said one word about it. Not to his wife, not to me, not to one soul on this earth. 22 years. And he'd written the numbers down in the one book he knew nobody would throw away. Behind me, the double doors opened about a foot. Specialist Odom had come back from the motel to ask about the van. She'd walked into a room with 90 silent people in it. She stopped in the doorway and found me. She was 20 years old and had no idea what she'd walked into. So she said the only thing she knew to say. First Sergeant. The murmur that went through that room did not sound like a courtroom. It sounded like a church when somebody comes in late. Stand fast, I told her. She stood fast. Ambrister took his hand off the gavel and set it down on the table like it had gotten heavy. Commissioner Teague, he said. Do you want to say something? Merle was looking at the volume on the rail. Not at me, not at the boy. I withdraw the motion, he said. So withdrawn, Ambrister said. Item 4. Item 4 was a culvert on Rock Camp Road. There was no gasp and no applause. A county board went on to a culvert because that is what county boards do. It took about 12 minutes for the room to empty out. A woman I didn't know put her hand on my sleeve on her way past. She didn't say anything at all. Wendell Pike went out the back without ever coming up to me. He never asked for 1 inch of it. My mother sat in the second row, with her coat still buttoned. Wyatt finally tugged her out to the hall to find the water fountain. And then Neva Kimball put her glasses in her pocket and looked at the volume on the rail. "I've got to have that back in the vault before 5, she said. "But it can sit here 5 minutes. Don't take it out of the building." She went out to the hall to talk to the man with the box cutter. For about 4 minutes, I was the only person in that room. 48 folding chairs, most of them crooked. The riser with the 7 empty seats. The gray light coming in over the north wall, where the bronze was going to hang in the morning. I picked the book up off the rail. I held it in both arms against my chest, the way my boy had held the Bible, one finger pushed in at page 618. I didn't cry. I've been asked, and I didn't. I stood in a duty uniform in an empty county board chamber holding a land book. What I felt was quiet. Just quiet. Like a generator you've listened to all night, finally shutting off. Merle was at his truck in the gravel lot when I came out. He had the door open and he wasn't getting in. "Roz." "Merle." He looked at the courthouse instead of at me. "You're a first sergeant." "I am." "Nobody told me that." "You never asked me a question in 22 years, I said. "Not one. You only ever answered them." "I asked Dad about you once." "What did he say?" "He said she's fine." That's all he ever said about anybody. It wasn't much to go on, Roz. It was more than you gave him. You could have told me. I did. 2 springs ago. On a table with the gravy going cold. He didn't argue with it. He got in the truck and shut the door, and sat there a minute, before he started it. I don't hate my brother. I'd like to some days because it would be simpler. He stayed. He ran the pit office at 24 while our father's back went out. Nobody ever put his name on anything for that. That's not an excuse. It's just the shape of the thing. My mother came out on the courthouse steps in her church coat. She stood 2 steps above me and cried without any noise, which is how her whole family does it. He took a Thursday morning off, she said. I know it. I asked him if it was the doctor. He said it was nothing. That sounds like him. I believed your brother. I know it. For a long while I believed him. I know that too. You never once said different. No, I said. I never did. She put her hand on the side of my face for about 1.5 seconds. Then she took it back. Then she told me we ought to get the boys something to eat. That's what I got. I'll take it. The unveiling was the next morning at 10. 200 people on the north lawn, a preacher, a high school trumpet player who cracked 1 note and recovered like a professional. I was working. You don't get to look at anything when you're the color guard. I saw the bronze for about 9 seconds at the end, over the shoulder of a man in a Legion cap. Wyatt had been out there since 8, in a clip-on tie. Which one is it? 3rd from the bottom. I see it. It's shiny. It won't stay that way. Why not? Weather gets at it. Turns it dark. Good, he said. And I have never worked out why that was the right word. 1,100 and some names. Mine, 3rd from the bottom. Teague, Rosalyn 8, and 4 rows above it because they'd gone by last name and then by first, my father. Teague, Emmett, R. I didn't know he was on there. He'd never told anybody about that either. That was a year ago this spring. Wyatt is 8 now. He still has the Bible on his nightstand under a flashlight and a rock. The slip is still folded in the back of it where his grandfather put it. That's where it's staying. I did get a certified copy of page 618. It's in a drawer in Kentucky with his pocket knife. I don't take it out. I just like knowing the county has the original, and I don't have to hold it. Here's the only thing I understand now that I didn't understand at 23. A true thing you carry in your own hand is an argument. A person can carry one of those a whole lifetime and never get it past the edge of somebody's plate. A true thing somebody else is holding is a fact. That isn't fair. and I've stopped asking it to be. It's just how a room works. So write it down somewhere that isn't your house. Then, tell one person where you put it, even if it's a 7-year-old with a rock on his nightstand. My father never used the word proud about me. Not one time. He drove 11 miles on a Thursday morning instead. He paid nothing and came home. Then he let it sit on a shelf for 22 years, waiting on somebody to ask. If any of this landed on you tonight, hand it along. Give it to somebody whose family made up its mind about them a long time back. And if you'd care for one more of these from me, subscribe. I'll have another one here for you.